The thrivers, because they've got an eye to the bigger picture, are able to see long term.
Right.
And see this as a situation, a blip, a chapter, a season, rather than forever.
You know how when you're climbing up a mountain, you don't go straight up this way unless you're one of the people who uses those spikes,
Right.
whatever. But you're climbing up a mountain this way. So every single time you pause, you're looking down. It seems like it's the same view.
Right.
So in the immediate term, it feels like you've not made any changes. But if you look up to how far you've gone, if you look down and see how much more do I have to go? How far have I come? You actually notice you've made some movement and some progress. So keeping an eye to the bigger picture helps you to keep going. I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
Right.
Even though it seems like you haven't moved far enough.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Woo! We made it. Oh my gosh. It's been a good year.
It has been a good year. It's been, there's been some bumpy parts.
Yeah. What
Life.
year doesn't have bumpy parts?
Well, give me one. I'll take one.
Okay. Well, may 2024 be a bumpy-less year.
And 2023 was my husband and I's mulligan year.
Yes. And
Right?
did it turn out to be that way?
It was pretty good mulligan, yeah. Mulligan in golf is a do-over.
Yeah.
So
what was good about it for you?
Well, we got the e-bikes.
Yes.
And, I told you before, I was a little hesitant, but I love those things. And just there was a lot of good, quality time. Just, we carved out little pockets of kind of getaway time. Just locally and stuff like that, but it was really good.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And then I guess he's also feeling better, which is nice.
He's feeling better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, I'm looking forward to this year.
Me too.
Yes. So how are we starting off the year? What are we going to talk about?
Oh, this is a good one. This is actually a really good one because for people who like to start the year with kind of a goal in mind or a dream in mind, this is a good one. So this is chapter 7 of Dr. Henry Cloud's book, Never Go Back. And this is never again take your eyes off the big picture.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah. Now, this is a really good one, and it feels a little bit repetitive because it feels like we've poked at this before. But I think given our time in history, globally, locally, in our own neighborhoods and environments, it's very easy to default to sort of doom and gloom headspace. And forget that there's a bigger picture to play. And actually, I was listening to a radio interview the other day, and the woman was talking about this very thing, that every decade in history has had things that you can hyper focus on.
Right.
And it can...
Because life has its bumps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those who kind of are successful in life, and I don't mean successful monetarily or anything like that, successful in life are the ones who are able to look long term.
Yes, I agree.
So
yeah.
It just look long term. And Dr. Cloud says it's a chapter about thrivers and strugglers.
What a way to put it.
So let's be thrivers.
Yes. So let's talk about how to thrive versus struggling.
Exactly. So just to put this chapter in perspective, he's talking about a mindset and not a set of situations.
Right. And again, that we have agency over our mindset. Yes.
So he was using in this chapter, he always is a storyteller, right? He was using a crash that happened in Wall Street. And he was saying that the Wall Street traders who had previous experience with bumpy stuff and were able to go, okay, I've seen this before. I've seen some of these patterns before. I kind of know what to do. We're able to thrive even in a down market. But the strugglers were the ones that were like, oh, the sky is falling, doom and gloom, retreat, and not take positive action forward.
Well, there's something that actually happens in our brain when we're focusing only on the negatives and we're worrying and we're stressing, because it takes a lot of energy to be stressed all the time.
Yes.
And think all these negative thoughts, to be ruminating over and over again. So you're draining your body of the resources to actually resolve a problem, face an issue, deal with it, move towards change when all your energy is focused on that negative thinking.
It's such a visual, right? Mm-hmm. That you're actually draining your capacity.
Exactly.
By being in that headspace.
Yeah. So it's not helpful. Yes, you want to pay attention to problems that need solving.
Of course.
But to ruminate and think about all the worst case scenarios, which worriers tend to do, you've now depleted yourself of the energy you need to have to face the reality of whatever you have to face.
And he talks about these strugglers are only able to see the immediate circumstances.
Yep.
They're because they're in that headspace you just talked about, where all their energy is going that way. Mm-hmm. Whereas the thrivers, because they've got an eye to the bigger picture, are able to see long term and see this as a situation, a blip, a chapter, a season, rather than forever. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes. I don't remember where I read it or heard about it, but you know how when you're climbing up a mountain, you don't go straight up this way unless you're one of the people who uses those spikes, whatever. But you're climbing up a mountain this way. So every single time you pause, you're looking down. It seems like it's the same view.
Right.
So in the immediate term, it feels like you've not made any changes. But if you look up to how far you've gone, if you look down and see how much more do I have to go? How far have I come? You actually notice you've made some movement and some progress. So keeping an eye to the bigger picture helps you to keep going. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Right. Even though it seems like you haven't moved far enough.
Yeah. That's a good visual, isn't it? Yeah. I'll have to get that. I've been watching all these alpine climbing videos.
Right.
I'm into like this extreme adventure from my couch.
Wow. Like, what's that all about?
Watching other people do these extreme things. I'm going, good for them.
It's fascinating. But
it is.
And even, for me, when I watch things like that, I always study, because I can't help it, what kind of person does this kind of stuff? What is it about them?
I know.
That makes them have the guts to do this kind of thing. Yeah. And the sheer amount of time and focus they put on this. I'm always curious about that.
I know, me too.
It's not me. I'm not going to be doing it.
This is my question about people like that is, how do they push through all that pain? Because a lot of it is very painful.
But I bet you they would say, how do we push through all the stuff that we push through? They'd rather face the physical stuff. They don't necessarily want to deal with this. Okay. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying. We all have our mountains to climb.
I know, we truly do. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
Yes.
In one of Dr. Henry Cloud's books, I think it's... I can't remember. It's one of his really good ones. Okay. Well, the 9 things you simply must do.
Okay.
He has a chapter called Play the Movie. I love this because I use it in coaching many times. Mm-hmm. So the idea of Play the Movie is, don't look at the movie as a single scene. And think of the ending that you want.
Right.
So, for instance, let's say you want to lose 10 pounds. If you don't start changing the script and taking action to lose the weight, the end of the movie, you're still going to be...
the same place.
Same place.
Yeah.
But if you take the time to think, what do I need to change? How do I need to get there? By the end of the movie, you're 10 pounds lighter. Whatever. Mm-hmm. How do I get out of debt? How do I change jobs? Play the movie to what you want the ending to be and take a look at your current circumstances, the current scene in your life, what changes need to happen to get to the end of the movie that you desire. So he always says this, play the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I think in this time in history, it's like one of those things where the scenes aren't so great.
You're right. Well, the other thing of playing the movie is seeing the disaster that might be around the corner if you keep this unhappy pathway going.
Yes, there's the 2 endings, right? If I don't change, this could be the disaster.
Right.
If I make steps to change, this could be the trajectory.
Right. Yeah. So that's the long-term mindset.
Yeah.
The bigger picture is the steps we take. In the immediate term, it may feel like it's not that big of a deal, but it's by degrees leading us down a particular path, either a good path or a bad path, depending on, what your goal is.
And back to, we've talked about this before in previous episodes, change is incremental.
Yeah, yeah.
Growth is incremental.
Exactly. Very important to keep that in mind.
So we've got a full year ahead of us.
Yes.
Look at all the growth that we can experience over the course of the next year.
I haven't even thought about what my goal would be for the year.
Well, it's early days.
Yes. But I think I might give some thought to that.
Yeah.
Because I think I would like to have a long-term goal.
Okay. Well, there's your challenge.
Well, at some point, you may or may not hear what that is if I come up with one. Because usually every year I kind of come up with a word that's a theme for me. And last year was to live wholeheartedly. And I think that helped keep my mind on that longer goal of practicing vulnerability and living from my heart and, what I want and believe and feel, right?
Yeah, so you had sort of like this the movie ending in mind that you wanted.
Yeah, so I got to think about that. What's my big picture for this year?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Listeners, you can...
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
You're going to want to tune in just to figure out what that
I want to tune in just for that. So, how do we unstuck ourselves? Is that a word? It is now.
Sure.
But how do we change mindsets to go from that place where we're losing all our resources, are losing all our energy into this negative space, to flipping our mindset to more positive, future, goal-oriented, play the end of the movie that you want to happen?
Well, I like the word that you used, unstuck, because on the flip side of it, where do you feel stuck?
Right.
So, do you feel stuck? Like, just pause for a moment and think about, do you feel stuck? And in what areas of your life are you feeling stuck? And perhaps that's a good place to start, because then there may be some negative thinking patterns that's associated with that place of stuckness that you can then start to unpack.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about this in many episodes about how beautifully our brains are wired for growth and change. It can also be wired, unfortunately, to reinforce negative patterns or bad patterns. So if you recognize that you have a tendency towards negative thought patterns, then you can't just kind of wish it away, go, I got to think more positively, and somehow it's going to change. It's like anything. You have to exercise those new patterns for it to change. So recognize where you feel stuck.
Right.
And then, of course, as I always say, get the coaching and support of the external structures that you may need to help you get unstuck. So this question for yourself is, are you focused on the immediate term challenges of your life, or the things that you're worried about or concerned about, and you've taken your eyes off of the big picture? So, the job that you're in right now, you may not like it. It may be causing you some stress. But if your big picture goal is to get your family out of debt, or to pay off your house or mortgage or whatever it might be, it will give you that, I can do this. I can do this, because it is such an important goal for me. You got to remind yourself of that. Yeah,
and I think, one of the things that I always like to think about is I'm always fascinated by, like, when I'm watching these adventure things, I look at the amount of planning that's gone into them.
Oh, absolutely.
And training.
Yes.
And it's, of course, for most athletes, the training is done in the dead of night or early mornings at the track or at the pool or whatever.
Right.
Like, the amount of stuff that we don't see that ends up on the playing field.
Right.
Right? And I think about, Henry Cloud talks about, athletes and how they can either go this way or this way. If they have a bad shot, or they have a poor performance, they can go down that spiral, and it's going to defeat them.
Right.
It's going to set them up for defeat in the next game, for the season, whatever. But an athlete who can put it in perspective, it was one game, it was one shot, it was, I know I'm capable of so much more.
Right.
That was an off day.
Yes.
And then they're looking at the bigger picture. They're the ones that are thriving and surviving in sport.
Yeah, because they see the mistakes and the failures as just part of life.
Right.
And an opportunity, again, to learn and to grow, as opposed to it's defining me or my career.
And I look at the people that surround, like, whenever you look at the infrastructure of a professional athlete, or some of these people that do these, like, crazy, road races or 100-mile races or whatever.
Yeah, they got a team.
They have like nutritionists and consultants and coaches and massage therapists. They don't rely on their own strength. They know that they need the voice of others to go, it was just a bad day.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So why don't we do that for ourselves? Like, it's like we need a little team of people around us who we can say, you know what, Mary, I really messed up today.
Yeah.
What can I do to get out of the space in my head?
Yeah. I mean, I love how you've broken it down, because we can look at these star athletes and go, oh, that could never be me. So therefore, whatever they're doing is not possible for me.
Right.
And maybe that activity isn't something that's possible for me, but their mindset and their discipline, the steps they take, and the people they surround themselves with. Oh, yes, that's something I can implement into my own life.
Yeah.
So that defeatist thinking that I could never do that already needs to be challenged.
Right.
And so even if it's a small little goal of that thing, that, okay, long-term perspective, you want to become a psychologist. I'm going to use that as an example. What's the first little immediate thing you can do? Well, you can call a psychologist who's practicing and ask her, what does it take to be a psychologist?
That's right.
I mean, just those little incremental steps. And they're painful because you're going to have to make a cold call.
Yep.
And you might get rejected. But because your long-term goal is so important to you, it keeps you focused on doing what you need to do. And then you bring in the resources and all the things that a top athlete would do.
And, you know, I think sometimes we put these categories around ourselves, like you said, like I couldn't have all that. But you do have all that. Like we do have, I mean, fortunately, we've got so many resources at our fingertips right now.
We do.
Right?
Yeah.
Too many, actually.
Yeah.
Dr. Google.
Yeah.
But we have all these resources at our fingertips. And one of the things that I love about what Dr. Cloud says in this particular chapter too is that find a support group.
Right.
Right? Like, so if you're going through a season in life where like it's divorce or it's debt or it's job searching, find a support group of people that are in your situation that you can trade off, you know, you can commiserate with, but you can also gain encouragement from and find out what's working for other people. I mean, I think this is why, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous is so popular and Weight Watchers is so popular because they're like-minded people working towards similar goals.
Exactly.
And so we do have these support networks, but it means putting ourselves out there.
It does.
It takes some risk.
Yeah. Well, again, we've said this a couple of episodes ago last year. We can do brave.
Oh, yes, we can.
We can do brave. So if that's a little thing that you can do to help you move forward, especially when it's such a important long-term goal for you, and it motivates you to do the tough stuff.
Yes.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, now this is one of the things that he talked about with, and I just want to challenge people because you may find yourself in one of these 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps.
Yes.
He talks about when we get into that headspace where we're just looking at the scene, when we're just looking at the situation we're in, we can fall into this category of the 3 Ps, where we take it personally. Somehow it's our fault. Somehow it's all on us. Somehow it's all to do with us, and you know, there's something flawed with us.
Well, that's totally discouraging.
I know.
Yeah.
Pervasive, that it infiltrates all areas of our life.
Right. So not only do I suck at that, I suck at everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a pervasive attitude that filters down. And then it's permanent.
Oh, yes.
It'll always be this way. I'll never change.
Right.
It's just what it is. It is what it is.
Right. So that's a really good thing as a filter. If you are looking at your life, you know, back to the question I asked earlier, where do you feel stuck? To think, do you have any of these 3 Ps going on?
Right.
Are you taking it personally? Are you blaming yourself for something that's not your fault, or taking responsibility for something that's not yours? Is it pervasive? Has it now kind of colored that you just have this perception that is across the board with many situations? And is it permanent? Like, it's not going to change anyway, so why bother trying?
Right.
Wow, that's really good.
I remember coaching a 6 on the Enneagram a number of years ago. And he shared with me that he had a fair chunk of commute in the morning, in like 45 minutes to an hour. And his brain would start going. He'd listen to the news, and then his brain would start going down the spiral. And so by the time he got to work, He was all these. Personal, pervasive, and permanent.
Right.
He was locked into this mindset, and he was exhausted. Because for the hour commute, he thought of how his life was off the rails, never going to change. There was nothing he could do in his power.
Yeah.
And so we set up a little thing where he put a Post-it note. I mean, this is a simple little thing. He put a Post-it note on his rearview mirror and says, "What is good?" That's it. So he had to turn off the radio and all the way.
Stop listening to all the news.
All the way into work.
Yeah.
What's good?
What is good? Ah, that's awesome.
And so by the time he got to work, and he had to change his, it took a long time, but every day going, what is good? What is good? What is good? Even if it's just that my coffee's hot today.
Right.
Right? Helped him to change his mindset.
Wow.
So by the time he got to work, he wasn't in that sucky headspace.
Right. Yeah.
That's the title of my book. Get out of your sucky headspace. That's it.
I think you have many books you could write, Gillian. Just to have the titles. Even if it's empty on the inside, just to have the titles.
It's just a notebook.
Okay.
It's just a journal.
Okay. I think you need to design these. Oh, so good.
So getting out of these negative spaces and getting out of these single scenes and single seasons of our life is going to take some work.
It will. It will. Yes. Now,
so setting an intention for ourselves for this coming year is a good place to start.
Yeah. So what is the big picture for you? What is the big picture for you? Personal goals. And it doesn't have to be huge. It's just big picture. Like, don't get so focused on the immediate right now. What is it that you want to change in your life? And what are the blocks? Where do you feel stuck? Especially related to the 3 Ps. And let 2024 be a year of breaking free and change and growth and health. I mean, even if that is happening internally and maybe the results aren't yet seen outside of you, that's already fantastic. If you can already feel the difference within yourself. But even better, that's the challenge, is to reach out to others, have a support network, but also accountability. So this goal or goals that you're going to set, like, let people know. Because as soon as you say it out loud, then it kind of becomes a little bit more real.
Yep. And remember, we've said this so many times in the last couple of segments, is that you can do brave.
Yes.
And you can take risk, and you have agency over your life and your choices. And even if you're in a hard place right now, you still have agency.
Yeah. A little exercise that I might suggest is if you kind of look at the different areas of your life, financial, your partner relationship, or even if you don't have a partner, your dreams for one, your work, whatever. So physical, emotional, spiritual, just think of all the different spheres of your life, and maybe do it in a circle, cut them into pie charts and label each one of them. Now color in to the degree that you feel satisfied in those areas.
That's a good one.
And then do the circle again, and then color into the degree that you feel any sense of agency in that. So you're pairing agency with the areas that are the lower ones, which means higher sense of agency, lower areas of happiness or satisfaction in that area. And that might be the thing you start working on.
That's a really good one, because it's such a strong visual, isn't it? And it shows potential. That's what I like about that particular one. Is it shows the potential for growth and what lays ahead for you. Lies ahead, lays ahead, whatever.
I think I use both all the time. Hey, we're at the age where it doesn't matter.
Well, I just make up words.
Yeah, you do.
But as long as you know what I'm saying, I really don't care.
And I mispronounce words all the time, so there.
Memoirs.
Well, that is because I'm speaking that with an accent.
Okay.
All right. Well, Happy New Year again. I hope it's going to be a fabulous year of personal growth for you, of freedom, greater and greater freedom and joy.
And you know what I'd love?
What's that?
Viewers, listeners, if you have some areas of growth that you can share with us where you've seen, even if it's incremental, it doesn't have to be you've scaled a mountain.
Yeah.
It could be you've made it around the first round of the mountain.
That's right.
Let us know, because we'd love to hear this. It's so encouraging for us. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we do this all the time when we think we've got a leg up on something that we've been struggling with. We send each other a note, and we send a note back. You're so mature, it's scary.
Yes.
So show us you're mature, it's scary, we want to hear about it.
That's right. And then we get to celebrate with you.
Exactly.
All right.
That's a great way to start 2024.
Yes, I love it. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Fully Lived Life podcast. We hope you found it encouraging and helpful. Be sure to follow or subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. And if you enjoyed our show, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family and posting on your social media. Thanks for listening, and tune in to our next episode.